Hi, this is a conversation with Andrew Bernstein. He is a professor at Clemson University and also the author of Capman, the Capitalist Manifesto. And Andrew, what is a hero?
Well, that's a great question, Luis. I think that a hero is somebody who overcomes tremendous difficulties in order to promote or advance human life on this earth. I think what makes a hero is a good guy. What makes him a good guy is he's committed to advancing, benefiting human life on earth. He's not a killer. He's not destroying human life. He's making it possible. And I think Ayn Rand shows us in Atlas Shrugged that the main faculty that advances human life on earth is the mind, is the human brain. And traditionally we've looked at heroes basically as great warriors and things like that. And I think in many cases that's true. People, warriors who fight for freedom against dictatorships, risk their lives to defend freedom are heroes. But I think Ayn Rand shows us in Atlas Shrugged that the main heroes are the great scientists, philosophers, writers, who make possible human life on earth, who make the advances that show us how to think, Aristotle, for example, how to grow crops. George Washington Carver, one of the great American, agricultural scientists at Tuskegee Institute. Isaac Newton, who taught us not only the principles of the laws of motion, but who showed us the power of the human reasoning mind. I would argue Ayn Rand herself, who revolutionized our understanding of both literature and philosophy. These are the great heroes of human life who achieve new knowledge, advances in knowledge, often in the face of intense social opposition. I mean, Socrates was one of those heroes, was condemned to death. Galileo, one of those heroes, was threatened with torture because when you develop new ideas, you're opposing the ideas that are held in society, and powerful social institutions will often will threaten your life. So I think the greatest heroes of human history are those geniuses who created new knowledge and made advances in human cognition and human knowledge that benefits human life enormously, and who often did so against intense social opposition, which, by the way, is the theme of Ayn Rand's great novel, The Fountainhead.
Should people have heroes? How do I choose a hero?
Well, I am a lifelong hero worshiper. So you're asking me. I think to be a hero worshiper, properly understood, is not only good. I think it's necessary for the development of a strong, for a person growing up from childhood and continuing into adulthood. I don't think hero worship is just for the young. But I'm 62, and I'm as much, if not more, of a hero worshiper today than I was when I was a kid. I think it's necessary for the development of a strong moral character and of a healthy psychology. So I think, how do we choose a hero? I think we look at the people both historically and currently. It doesn't matter. The great thing about this, it doesn't matter what gender they are, what nationality, race, ethnic group. That you look at the people who've been committed to benefiting human life on this earth, who may have faced intense social opposition, may even have died, in their cause, and you realize not only the kind of genius that these individuals had, but the integrity, the moral character, the commitment to an idea, to an ideal, to a principle. Here we are at Francisco Marroquin, a great university committed to the teaching of Austrian economics. Well, the Austrian economists, the leading Austrian economists, I would consider heroes. Ludwig von Mises, tremendously increased our knowledge of economic science, and he was basically an outcast in his day. The universities wouldn't hire him. When he came to America to escape National Socialism, he had to struggle, to make a living. His ideas were not accepted by the intellectual establishment. You choose a hero, I think, by reference to the people who were committed to human life, who reached achievements that benefited human life on earth, who did so often against intense social opposition, sometimes threatened their life, like Socrates. And then I think what we gain from that is, maybe I don't have the genius of Socrates or Von Mises or Galileo or Ayn Rand or something like that, but I could have their integrity, their commitment to their ideas, to their principles, that they weren't going to compromise, they weren't going to bow down to social authority. They were going to stand tall, in defense of the vision that they had, the truth that they had. And I could have the same kind of integrity in my life. I could be as morally upright as them, and as dedicated to life on Earth. And maybe I won't revolutionize the field of physics the way Isaac Newton did, but still, what achievements might I reach in my own life if I have the dedication to rational principles that these great heroes have exhibited in their lives?
Just for the sake of argumentation, can hero worshipping become dangerous in the sense of promoting the cult of personality, for example, which is very visible in totalitarianism or authoritarianism?
Yeah, that's a good question. Certainly, there are many people who fear that. But I would answer that question properly understood. I think the answer to that is a resounding no, because part of what I think Ayn Rand has showed us in Atlas Shrugged is that it's the mind which is the means by which we promote human life on this earth. It's the men of the mind who are the great heroes. So I think the people who fear hero worship fear you or I giving up our minds to follow this great man. And I think a proper hero worship is the exact opposite. We develop our minds based on the inspirational value we see from the Ayn Rands, from the Ludwig von Mises, from the Aristotles, from the Galileos, from these great thinkers who've advanced human life on this earth. We make the commitment to our own mind. We may not be a genius, but we have our own intelligence. We make a commitment to our own mind, which means we think for ourselves. We don't follow anybody, not even somebody we admire tremendously. My favorite book of all time is Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead. And what it stresses here is the independent judgment. Use your own mind. That's what made these great heroes possible. They have genius, but also they use their own mind. They don't obey society. And I think it's the same thing for you or I, or the intelligent layman. One thing we learn from the great hero is to use our own mind. We do not follow. If we disagree with Socrates or Ayn Rand or Galileo, whoever it is, then we disagree. And we go with the judgment of our own mind. We're not followers. We're certainly not going to follow Hitler or Stalin, who are irrational brutes.
You're working on a book about heroes. What have you discovered during the process of researching and writing the book that you didn't know before about heroes?
Oh, well, the part of research and writing, of course, the biggest part of it is thinking. And in studying the lives of these great heroes is enormously inspirational, because in studying the life of a Thomas Jefferson, or a George Washington, or I mentioned George Washington Carver, who had to struggle against the Jim Crow laws and enforced legal segregation in the American South, and still reached these great advances in agricultural science. One of the things about studying the lives of heroes is you live with them. And Ayn Rand had to escape from the communists in Russia and come to the United States, where English was her fourth language. She struggled to make a living. The intellectual establishment hated her books and philosophy. She's a woman in a man's discipline and in the intellectual world. You study the lives of these great heroes and heroines, and you're with them, and so it has tremendous inspirational value. That's one of the great benefits of being a hero worshiper and/or writing a book about heroes. But to answer your question, I realized that I wanted a definition of heroism. I was reading, Thomas Carlyle wrote a famous book on heroes and hero worship, and other people have written books on heroes and hero worship. As I was doing the research, nobody gave a definition of what it meant. What does it mean to be a hero? And I realized you couldn't study the lives of heroes and then extract the definition from their lives, because what made you choose them as the heroes in the first place? You had to have some definition of hero in mind, in order to choose them. And so what I realized was, in order to get the definition of heroism that I want, I need to look at the facts of of man's survival requirements on this earth. What is it that makes possible human survival and prosperity on this earth? What is necessary for human beings to rise up out of the caves? In technical philosophical terms, this is metaphysics. It's the study of reality. It's a rational study of the universe. And what is it about the universe that makes heroism possible, that makes heroism necessary? What are the facts of reality? Now, here's the question. Here's the question Ayn Rand taught us to ask. What are the facts of reality that give rise to the phenomenon of heroism? What are the facts of reality that give rise to the concept of heroism? What is it about reality that makes heroism possible? What is it about reality that makes heroism necessary? These are the questions I had to answer because nobody else has done it. And then I have a definition of heroism. Then I have criteria by reference of which to judge who falls under the rubric of this concept, who's a hero, and who does not.
In certain environments, heroes are dismissed because people are not perfect, because these heroes of yours have flaws. What can you answer to that?
Well, human beings are flawed. I mean, if we're not infallible or omniscient beings, we make errors. And so I have a tragic story on this, which may well be true. One of my students told me, that his father died during heart surgery, which should have been routine, or as routine as heart surgery could be. The heart surgeon was Michael Debakey, who is one of the great heroes who operated out of Houston, who was one of the great heroes in pioneering, various new methods in open heart surgery. He's like he's like Michael Jordan of the field. He's one of the greatest ever. The kid thought his father died because of Debakey's error. That's not impossible. That's one of the reasons I don't want to be a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon. Because if I make as a philosophy professor or a writer, if I make a mistake in writing something, I'm not going to publish this till next year. I could go back and edit it and correct it. If I make a mistake in class, I could come back in my Monday class. I can come back on Wednesday and say, guys, I made a mistake. But if I make a mistake as a brain surgeon or heart surgeon, my patient might die. The pressure of that is enormous. Debakey may be the best in the world. He's not infallible. He can make an error. This is why these guys are such heroes, on the how many lives they save. On the one hand, you have to be human enough to feel it. I made an error and this poor guy died. He should have lived, and then you feel it. At the same time, you got to be mentally tough enough to be able to put it aside, because tomorrow somebody else needs heart surgery too, and you got to go back and try and save that guy's life. But human beings are fallible beings, so we make errors. In order to judge any phenomenon, you have to have a standard that's appropriate to its nature. The nature of human beings, perfection is not appropriate to the nature. The omniscience, infallibility it's not appropriate to the nature of man. So it's not an appropriate criterion for judging who is a great man or who isn't, or who's a hero or who isn't. To give another example, one of my favorite heroes is Thomas Edison. The greatest inventor of history, who revolutionized human life in several ways, especially with the electric lighting system. They say that Edison, who worked like 18 hours a day, he so loved his work. They say that he neglected his children. Well, let's say that's true. If that's true, that's a serious moral breach. You can't bring children into the world and neglect them. Children have a right to expect a lot of love and attention from mom and dad. So that would be a serious moral breach. We would have to acknowledge it if it's true. We would have to acknowledge it. But at the same time, that doesn't alter the fact that Thomas Edison made tremendous contributions to human life. And let's put it this way, we'll put it simply. There's a lot of guys who neglect their children. There's only one guy who invented the electric lighting system and tremendously advanced human life on this earth. So if we have to acknowledge that he's flawed, but he's also a giant. Somebody doesn't have to be perfect to be a giant. And I think that's what these people who denigrate or devalue heroes because they're flawed. I think that's the main answer. It's not that the great achievements, the above and beyond the Call of Duty achievements, negates the flaw. It doesn't. Rather, it's that the flaw doesn't negate the above and beyond, the call of duty, life-giving achievements.
Andrew, thank you very much for sharing these ideas with us, and thank you too.
Luis, it's been a pleasure.